You see the sound for everything's about some new drug that's going to help you out. And they always come with the disclaimers that feature hideous warnings while being mumbled, and they take up about half the ad about the side effects and the possible negative implications of taking this drug on a regular basis. Meanwhile, the woman is walking through a field of butterflies. She's blowing bubbles, walking a little puppy on a rope because she just took 2 pills and got over lifelong depression. Incredible. But the Jardiance ad, have you seen that? Jardiance, I believe it's a diabetes medication. And they got this big fat chick who gets off a train and immediately is leading 25 to 30 people in singing songs about how wonderful the effects are of Jardiance. And I'm thinking the last time I saw a drug like that was when we had Dennis Rodman doing shows at that Bamboo Beach Tiki Bar right on the beach here in Fort Lauderdale. And he was like gargling with Goldschlager.
Yes,
He was pretty much out of his mind the entire time. And one night he comes on our show, and I've never seen a guy happier in my life. And I thought, whatever drug this guy's on, I want some of that.
Yes.
I don't know that Jardiance gives you that kind of a feeling, but you would assume that it just was a key to happiness. That as soon as you started guzzling a bunch of Jardiance pills out of this bottle, that you were going to be happy and your diabetes was going to disappear, or would get to the point where you just didn't fucking care about possible complications and the implications of having this hideous disease. Unbelievable, right? So we have to get rid of that.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. The Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. We've made it to the end of the week here, although I guess, we still have a celebrated weekend on tap, Lubie. I don't know. Being Jewish, Easter would not normally be a big deal to a Jewish family, but you have blended your family in terms of religiosity, so I would imagine there's going to be some kind of big-time Easter celebration. I also am in that situation and looking forward to a big Easter Sunday with the family. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. If you're a sports fan, you couldn't have asked for much more yesterday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz with you. The professor going to join us later on. The professor 1-1 in the selections that we gave out yesterday with the NCAA tournament. So it's a wash, right? You pay the juice, you turn the page, you move on. That's the way it goes, huh? Broke even today, Lubie. Broke even. Is that a statement that you feel emboldened by when you can actually say with honesty and truth and integrity, you know what? I broke even today. Would you be happy to break even today? That's the question you should ask yourself.
Yes. The fact that I only gave myself one really strong play that I really believed in, the fact that I really felt Clemson. And because I remember FSU beating the shit out of them in a game.
Yes.
I remember either beating them or playing them really close twice. And I was like, and then I remember them struggling in the ACC tournament, but I went to Ken. I'm like, did they figure it out at the end of the season? Like, what am I missing? He's like, no, in the first round of the fucking ACC tournament, they lost to Boston College.
Yes.
Boston College sucked. I'm like, so what's going on? He's like, they're just hot. But it's not hot though. Like it wasn't, they shot 60% from three. Like they were going, the dude at the end of the game when they were up 2, and Arizona looked like, okay, at least they'll win this game. The dude went into the lane on 3 guys, took a bump, and did some like fucking Jordan layup, and then it went in, and he got an 1 to make it 5 points with like 30 seconds left. I'm like, what the fuck team is this? I'm like, I didn't watch a lot of college basketball, but I knew what was going on in the ACC. But Clemson was not good. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is so weird from like, it's not a VCU or, like a George Mason. It's an ACC team. Like, they're either good or they're not. Like, to see it catch fire and then just like Arizona was never in that game. Like, they were leading the entire game.
Well, they took a 1-point lead about, I want to say, maybe 10 minutes to go in the second half. They had come back. They were down 8, I think, at halftime. And that lead could have been larger. Obviously, it could have been smaller, Defo. Hey, there's a brilliant deduction. But it did appear that they were being badly outplayed in the game by Clemson. Clemson didn't impress me either. I saw a little Clemson basketball towards the end of the regular season and tuned in periodically during the course of the college basketball year. And when I was watching Clemson, I don't remember anything of significance to think, whoa, this is a team you better watch for when the NCAA tournament rolls around. I didn't hear anybody saying anything like that. Did you?
No.
It has to be one of the biggest bracket busters in a long, long time. I mean, right up there with St. Peter's and Fairleigh Dickinson, having Clemson even win 1 round of the tournament, much less now being in a position where they're sitting there getting ready to compete in the Elite 8. Shouldn't that be the grade 8, Lubie? Isn't it about time that it went with some kind of rhyme in that spot?
The Elite Eight. I don't know.
It's the Sweet 16. There's alliteration there, but and I understand. Maybe are they going with the alliteration in the Elite
Yes.
8?
E. Yes. Even though the E's are one's a strong E and one's the other E.
It's fucking stupid. What are you talking about? It should be the grade 8, shouldn't it?
I don't know.
How many people now, with the way that people, illustrate things or write things, they just write G, R, and an 8 to, put
That's what it
the
was.
fact that hey, that's great, right? I mean, that would be very common if you were texting somebody or on Twitter or whatever. Just it's great, GR8. So I think it's time we capitulated to the idea that almost everybody would think immediately, hey, the Sweet 16 is over. Who's going to be in the Great 8? That they got rid of the Elite 8. Is that really something that I should be unconcerned with completely? I mean, if you're occupying a lot of your time thinking about something that's stupid,
Yeah.
you should be posting about, how much is the proper minimum tip on Let's Eat South Florida. That would be great. Should it be 18%? I don't know. That's a little low. I always like when the people very sort of indignantly say, yeah, well, I tipped them 18% anyway. It's like, you cheap fuck. You're proud of that? You got to be kidding me. But so I didn't watch all of it last night. I actually was zeroed in on a big upset that took place at the Miami Open as Gregor Dimitrov, who's been around for a long time, and you would think is maybe at the end of his career. This guy was brilliant, and he knocked off Carlos Alcaraz in straight sets
Oh, wow.
last night in the men's quarterfinals. Alcaraz, who had won at Indian Wells but was not invulnerable there, was starting to shake off the throes of a mini slump that he had sort of been in, if you could call it that. Still was playing some sensational lights-out tennis, but was losing some of the matches that you would have expected him to win. It was a brief period of time. He comes back. He staves off all kinds of problems and wins at Indian Wells, trying to accomplish the sunshine double, as they call it in tennis. And last night in the quarterfinals, you should have seen the star-studded crowd that was there, Louis. It's incredible. I don't know. I mean, I took exception with Mike Mayo when he made the statement on the lunchbox that nobody gives a shit about the Miami Open. But you know how he is. I mean, well, it's not a Key Biscayne anymore. I'm like, Mike, it doesn't matter. It's a great event. I don't care if they played it on the Palmetto. It's still, I mean, you have the world's greatest players here, but star-studded crowd there on hand last night. And they also witnessed one of the women's semifinal matches, which I wasn't able to make it all the way through. I was a little under the weather last night, but the Alcaraz upset by Dimitrov was absolutely spectacular. If you wanted to see some just incredible lights-out hitting, even Alcaraz, when he's off, he's still entertaining to watch. He didn't have his best game last night. And Dimitrov was just absolutely sensational. So I was in and out with that and some of the basketball. I was kind of stunned like you. Saw a panel of 6 experts on CBS Sportsline. They all suggested they had the line at 7. I'm not sure if it was 7 or 7.5. They all said that you should go ahead and dive on Arizona, that this was the gimme of all time, that Clemson didn't belong in the tournament. And Arizona was a unanimous choice by these guys, laying the points, Louie, to win that game. So it was kind of a stunner there to see Clemson prevail, and they now move on to the Elite 8 or the Grade 8 if you wanted to really just get hit with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And in the other ball games, now UConn, are we just not looking at the obvious? Are they unstoppable, or are they due at some point to have somebody actually administer a reasonable challenge to the way they've been slapping people around in the NCAA tournament for the last year and change? 10-plus points or better in every game they played in the tournament since last year. There's their winning margin. And they do it again last night as San Diego State. You had said this going in, and I think most people felt this way also, that San Diego State was not nearly as good as it was last year, and UConn might even be better.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yes. UConn last year was good. But remember, they weren't this juggernaut. They became a juggernaut in the tournament. In the tournament, they became a juggernaut, but they weren't the overall number 1 seed last year. This year they were. And so far they've been just that.
Wow. What a disparity. I mean, it really is. People were saying this a couple of months ago, actually, when UConn was on a roll during the regular season. And they were saying, well, geez, there's UConn and everybody else. Yep. And you're thinking, okay, that's a nice cliched statement, but is it really true with all the parity that you have in college basketball? But it does appear that there was an element of validity to that UConn is light years ahead of everybody else as they win by 30 last night. Just unbelievable. A complete wipeout. They were only up 9 at halftime. So they really opened it up in the second half. They were up 40-31 at halftime, and come out and just stomp San Diego State right out of the tournament. So they're not going to make another appearance in the Final Four. Bama and UNC, North Carolina, a number 1 seed. 2 number 1 seeds going down in the Sweet 16, Libby.
There's one number 1. Arizona, now again,
Arizona wasn't a number 1? I thought they were.
Number 1. A lot of people had Arizona ahead of Purdue. A lot of people thought Arizona was like the third favorite to win it all. That's why I'm fucking pissed, because in the stupid only one bracket I did, I had Arizona winning it all. And my champion's now out in the goddamn Sweet 16. But Arizona actually was officially a 2. And last night played like a fucking 9. So, yes, Arizona, we still have right now 3
so there are 3 number 1 seeds left in there.
Yes, right now.
All right, very good. What do we got? We got Purdue, we got Houston, and UConn. Okay, makes sense. Yes. All right, well, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
I was going to let you keep going, but I'm like, I don't know. Ken will probably call you out, so I didn't want
No, that's okay. You know what? I don't know why I was assuming, because everybody was so high on Arizona. I guess that was part of the reason that I assumed that they were a number 1 seed, even though it would be pretty easy to just look at the newspaper and say, hey, what the fuck? They're a number 2. But they go down. They're down and they're out. And that came probably that was the biggest shock. I don't know. The margin of victory in the San Diego State game, UConn, that could have also been a shocker. Alabama over North Carolina was, I would think, a bit of a surprise, because Alabama, a lot of people thought Alabama had the worst defense of any team that was in the tournament. Never mind just left in the Sweet 16, that their defense was so shoddy that North Carolina would have a field day against them, and they end up losing by 2. And then in the offense versus defense game, the 2 teams that nobody gives a fuck about, Illinois and Iowa State. Does anybody care about either of those 2 teams? Unless you went there, you would have, I would imagine, 0 fans.
It's weird.
Illinois and especially Iowa State. No?
Going into the tournament, Iowa State was a team a lot of people were high on, because they thought they could get out of Houston. They play really good defense. They're solid on offense, and they're well coached. So people thought highly of them. And Illinois has this guy, Terrence Shannon Jr., who's one of the more electric players in the country. But you're not wrong. As the tournament unfolded, no one talks about either of those teams.
Nobody cared about them. Iowa State was kind of a subliminal wise guy pick, I guess. I don't know. Is that the way to put it? Where in the shadows, people were saying, "Well, Iowa State might have a shot." So, and they did, I guess. I mean, they only lose a game by 3 points, but nonetheless, they were supposed to be the best defensive club in the tournament. And they lose to Illinois 72-69 last night. So it sets us up for 4 more games on tap tonight. And I don't know. I mean, I have no strong feel for any of these games. I don't know if you do, Lubie. I'm rooting for NC State because I love the fat guy Burns.
That's the thing, is NC State to me doesn't belong. It's a weird feeling, because Clemson didn't belong, but had a much better year than NC State. And I want them to lose.
Yeah.
Clemson. I want them to lose. NC State doesn't belong. Like, they were 17-14. They were under 500 in the ACC. They literally just caught fire. So you would think I would have the same sentiment, but because of there's something about Burns Jr. who feels like
you gotta love him.
A 1990s big, where I don't know what he does in the pros, because he's like he plays center, but he's 6'9", and he's massively overweight, but he has great footwork. But he feels like a 1990s college big. And so for some reason it's tugging at my nostalgia strings. So I'm all over NC State. And then also, you were on Burns Jr. from that first game before anyone was talking, or no, from the AC tournament, you fell in love.
I've loved this guy every time I've seen him. He looks like a center that would be the unheralded guy that held Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to 12 points while playing at the Rucker Park, doesn't he? Yeah.
Like a Wes Unseld.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a good guy, but you're like, how is he good? He's
like, he's scoring on Dr. J while playing, somewhere at Rucker, and he just doesn't look like he belongs in organized basketball. He looks like the kind of guy that holds court in some recreational league somewhere. No.
Yes. He does, but he's really good, and he knows the game well. His vision is instinct.
Very clever passer. I mean, he's one of those guys that he's dishing it off over the shoulder, around the back, always finding the right guy, finding guys that spot up, wide up. Well, why is this, Lubie? Too, and I know you're coaching little kids basketball, and I hope you coach this right the fuck out of their system, which is when you're wide open. And a guy fires a pass to you, just go up and shoot the ball.
Yes.
What's with this up fake? Is that a required movement now in basketball that you can't start dribbling until you do some kind of an up fake or you can't take a shot because all it does is draw the defense to you most
But
of the
you're
time?
supposed to up fake when there's a defender near you,
Yeah,
and you're doing it to get him to fly by you. These guys will up fake when no one's around. It's
it's
like
an automatic.
like, why are you up? You're up faking open. Like that doesn't. Who are you up faking to?
Every single player that gets a pass on the perimeter does an up fake. On the inside, I understand it a little bit more, but when you're wide open, there's no defender within 5 feet of you. Do you really need to make an up fake? Is it advantageous to do an up fake and draw the defender closer to you so he can steal the ball the minute you put it on the floor? What the fuck is that? Just shoot it. How many times you find yourself screaming at the screen? Just saying, just go up and shoot the ball. What is this? It's insane. All coaches, is there not a single coach that will stand up and stand up to his players and say, you do this fucking up fake one more time like that, you'll never sniff the court again during regulation time or overtime for that matter. Anyway, yeah, a bunch of good games. I mean, everybody roots for Shaka Smart, don't they? He's a very likable guy, or seems to be. Marquette, 6.5 over NC State. I'm going to put my sentiments with NC State, and am I willing to put my money there? Yeah, why not? Take a shot. Take the 6.5 with the Cinderella team so far. Or is there a point in time where, and they've faced enough quality and high caliber opposition so far between the ACC tournament, which everybody said the league was weak this year, but I mean, there were good teams in there. North Carolina was a #1 seed. And it seems like they've held up no matter what and played representative competition at this point. Marquette, I don't know if they're even the best team that they faced in the last week and change.
No, Marquette screwed around a lot. That's why again, we talked about it on the morning briefing. Tonight's games, after the Arizona game, I'm really gun shy. But to me, Purdue Gonzaga, look, Purdue feels a lot like that Virginia team that was the first #1.
Yes.
To lose, now Purdue was second, where Virginia lost a year as a #1 to, what was it, Wilmington or UMBC or something, and then the next year they went and won it all. Purdue last year loses Fairleigh Dickinson, #1 seed, second ever now. And now this year, they seem to be playing really serious basketball.
More composed, yes.
And they're also, that one game with Edie was fucking weird because it was like you were watching them play, you were calling it what, Lilliputians? And Edie didn't do anything. It was like, dude, why would you just not hammer that? So it feels like through at least these first 2 games, they're giving him the ball every goddamn possession, which is what you should fucking do. And he's eating. So it feels like, as long as they keep doing that, there's not a lot of teams that have guys that can really match up with him, and Gonzaga's one of them. So to me, that's the one game that I could see being a little bit off. The other ones is hard. Like Houston isn't a kind of team that just blows people away. It's their defense, and
they've been suspect a couple of times. Look, they had to survive Texas A&M in overtime. So you could look at it from a couple of different standpoints. You always see a team that goes all the way, ends up being challenged in some game early on. And then they rebound and they get themselves together, having survived the scare. I don't know. Is Houston in that position? Or are they vulnerable against Duke, who Duke's been good this year? I'm a fan, actually, as much as people used to be despising Duke because of Coach K and his sanctimonious presence there as the greatest basketball god of all time. I don't mind John Shire at all. He seems like a very likable guy, does he not? I mean, he's kind of in that Dusty May category, Jim Larinaga, where you're thinking, how could you have something against this guy?
Yeah, he doesn't feel douchey like Coach K with that fucking scout.
Seems very humble, and the things he says makes you think that okay, this guy doesn't think that he doesn't think he's Jay Billis. God's gift to basketball, that's for sure.
And the other trade in Tennessee almost lost to Texas, and Texas was sort of So Creighton's played good ball. So I would think Creighton in that game, to be really honest, but I don't have an overwhelming opinion. Like tonight's games feel like what we saw from yesterday's games. So I don't know. Like, look, yesterday's games ended up being good games. It was just frustrating outside of the UConn game. It's just frustrating because the way I was leaning was very, very wrong, I think, in all the games.
Unbelievable, yeah. Speaking of leanings, I couldn't help but notice this. It was on the front page of the Post today, right? They're making this big deal out of the fact that Trump attended the wake of a fallen New York cop, okay? And while that was going on, the Democrats were having this rousing fundraising rally, which they put together $25 million. But did Trump attend any of the funerals of the guys that perished while they were trying to protect the Capitol building on January
No,
6th? I don't remember him being a presence there. Do you?
no. What do you mean? He's the opposite. He's defending the murderers.
Yeah, there you go. He's going to
These
let
are
them all out of
heroes,
jail. Exactly.
patriots. Yeah,
These are the real American patriots. Way to
spat
go.
on their
Do that
grave.
little dance.
The cops that literally were trying to defend our fucking
Yeah.
Capitol. He's spitting on their goddamn grave. Honestly.
So I'd hardly be inclined to, think that this was a very positive move on his part. I mean, it was positive in the sense that, he managed to fool whoever the legions of followers who still believe that this piece of shit should be president. Unbelievable. Could you have a more comical situation? And never mind that Biden is 80 years old and senile.
Senile, yeah, obviously.
That's one thing. Okay, yeah, sure, you have to take that into consideration. But you have a guy, I mean, like already convicted of a variety of different things. He doesn't deny that he was banging Stormy Daniels. I mean, he's about to go on trial for that. He only denies that he was the guy that was responsible for giving her the $30,000 to shut the fuck up. Never mind that his wife was about to drop a baby. This woman that he's so hopelessly and eternally in love with, the lovely Melania Trump, who also has done a bit of a disappearing act of late. Every now and then you'll see her show up in a picture, and you're like, "What the fuck is going on?" All right. We had baseball yesterday. We're 1 for 1, Lubie. I told you, three very positive developments out of that Marlins game yesterday. Number one, we have the under at 79 games. So they already lost one. So they now have to play almost 500 ball the rest of the way.
And the way they lost was very indicative of what I think this year's going to be. They actually had
exactly
until the 7th. They were up 5-2. They did nothing offensively the rest of the game.
No.
And their bullpen sucked. And they had multiple chances in the 10th and 11th inning and lost in the 12th. So
I tuned in. They were up 5-4. And they had just brought in, and I was all excited because they had brought in Sixto Sanchez.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even see that part.
Sixto came in, I believe this was the top of the 8th inning. So I guess they're going to use Sixto out of the bullpen this year, or at least to start the season.
Yeah, they're working him in.
All right. I didn't see him throwing it at like 110 miles an hour. Wasn't that his claim to fame? That and the reason everybody thought he was going to have a magic carpet ride is in a big ascent as a number one starter. Remember, we were talking to all these Marlin people. Didn't he have like the blazing hot fastball?
Yes, he was a flamethrower. That was his thing.
He wasn't really bringing it with that kind of velocity in the stint. And one pitch that he did deliver with the velocity that I think exceeded 100 miles an hour was when it went off the bat. I think his first pitch was hit for a home run that tied the ball game. And then the Marlins held on into the 12th inning before they finally gave up a run with the new Fugazi system where they put a guy on second base, which I'm not going to condemn it because I do believe, it would have been horrible to go opening day Marlins game.
Innings.
You get there 4 o'clock and then you're sitting through 19 fucking innings. I don't need that. I really, there was a time I would have enjoyed that. I am not a fan of that. Let's end the game as quickly as we can. Once we get to the 10th inning, that'll be fine. So we not only got a loss by the Marlins, but we got a win by the Pittsburgh Pirates, who we had given out as our over team for the season. The Pittsburgh Pirates. The number, I'm going to have to recheck it, but I think it's like 70, something like that, 78 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So we got everything that we possibly needed. And one of the other big indicators with the Marlins, Louis, was that they won all those one-run games last year. Remember? They won their first, I think, 12 one-run games last year.
The record was amazing one-run games last year.
So that trend is already reversing, man. With 161 games to go, I am convinced that everything we needed to happen yesterday actually happened. All right, the professor's going to join us here. You want to pop him in for a quick cameo here, or just send it to the... There he is. How are you doing, Professor? How are you feeling? Thanks for getting up. You had to be a little bleary-eyed last night watching those late games, no?
I was, definitely. And your voice sounds like you were screaming at the TV all night.
No, I got a little frog thing though working in the throat here. But no, I'm going to tough it out and go ahead and do the show. And I figured all I need to do is kind of bring my laughter into the equation because you'll have
way
a
to play hurt, Defo.
Yeah.
We all appreciate the effort.
I've worked in much more horrible conditions than this, but it was somewhat of a surprise. I guess it started to act up a little bit yesterday, but flared up a little bit last night. How did you feel about what you saw last night, real quickly? Just a synopsis on the
first set of games kind of ugly. Second set of games. Strange, but very entertaining. Like I very confused about what the hell North Carolina was doing. But entertaining game. And watching the Tar Heels go down in flames is always entertaining. So
Yeah.
how you not gonna, you can't
You
hate
had to
on it.
really like them though, because I know you hate the team, and that was one of your
That's the
selections
thing.
yesterday. Was laying points. with
I
North
did
Carolina.
really like them, but I didn't know that some guy who's so full of white trash jeans that you can actually hear carnival music play when he shoots the ball, who averages 10 a game, was going to go for like 27. Although, again, as I said to my man Blake, it sort of sums up Baycott's career. He'll be brilliant against another All-American center, and then just get dominated by some scrub. And that's certainly ended his career last night, getting dominated by a total bum.
Unbelievable. All right, we'll get into that, and of course, the big board coming up in just a few minutes here on the Defo Show, a Degenerate Friday edition with the professor, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. We'll be back with more. Stick around, people. We'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Thank you, Johnny. It's 8:32.
In style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
We all know politicians lie. Why not go with a guy who has spent the last 40 years lying every time someone asks him a question? Lance Armstrong. And we all know that RFK Jr.'s whole platform is, we hate fucking doctors. Doctors suck. They're trying to kill you. Well, then why not go with the man? Shut up. Cancer makes you much, much stronger.
Yeah.
Cancer. You get cancer and you become a much, much better athlete.
Become a superhuman.
Oh,
You're sort of like dude who finished like 200th in the Tour de France. You get cancer and then you come back and you win like 19 of them in a row. That's the plan. You just need a little yellow piece of plastic around your wrist and cancer, and you will become a superhuman athlete. That is the new healthcare plan under our administration. Get cancer, wear the yellow wristband, become superhuman.
A real prince of a human being, too.
Oh, he's such a good dude.
You can kind of deduce that from his various documentaries.
Anyway, but again, still
For
better pick than
better
Joe Rogan.
than
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
We really do want American politicians to sell us. And like when the world is about to end, we want someone who can bullshit with us. And America has spent like the last 30 years actively wanting to believe Lance Armstrong's ridiculous lies. So, in a way, it kind of fits.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Was that Lubie admonishing his dog on tape, or was that live?
Oh, that was me. I didn't know the mic was hot.
Okay. Outstanding. All right, Professor, back with us. We want to get some selections for tonight, maybe a little bit of a future look down the road here in the NCAA tournament. And, of course, we'll get to the big board here in just a sec as well. Now, what are you thinking tonight, Professor?
Well, first of all, I want to just say, watching the games last night, I finally figured out the key behind one of the big mysteries of the NCAA tournament. I'm watching the end of that Arizona Clemson game, and it finally makes sense, and that is Shefflin. For those who haven't been watching Clemson, that's Fatty Magoo, who wears the T-shirt to hide his lunch lady arms. His head is so large that it has a gravitational pull, and that's why nobody can shoot against Clemson, because the ball has a tendency to want to, circle around his watermelon-sized head, and that's why Caleb Love was like 0 for 10 from the three. No, really, biggest mystery of the tournament to me. Everybody trying to pretend like Clemson is good. Because
I
they've
don't get
gotten
it.
on a run. They're not a good basketball team.
No.
They just seem to be one of these teams, and we see them every few years where everybody just plays horrible against them, and that was again the case last night.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I'm very frustrated. My dad was a Wake Forest alum. I have been a lifelong Wake Forest fan because of him. We had Tim Duncan, who was like a top 5 to 10 NBA player of all time, for 4 freaking years when nobody had 4 years. When everybody was going out after their freshman year, we had Tim Duncan for 4 years. I had Randolph Childress on that same team. No Final Fours. We had Chris Paul. We were number 1 in the country for like 10 consecutive weeks. No Final Fours. But this team of Clemson is going to get a freaking Final Four, maybe. That is enough to make me stop watching this sport, honestly.
Such ugliness taking
Complete
place.
unfair.
Fucking annoying.
That has to be a huge bracket buster, though, to have them even
What the
still
fuck?
alive at this point. I would have had them knocked
That's
out in the very first game.
That's
I watched them a few times.
I did have them
you
in
know,
my bracket going out the first game to New Mexico.
yeah,
And they
New
should've
Mexico
won.
was the hot pick by virtually everybody. And having seen snippets of their games through the regular season and in the ACC tournament, I thought, what a bunch of schmucks these guys are.
They're terrible. Like, people are ACC fans are like, oh, see, Clemson proves how good the conference was. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. They got smoked by Miami. Florida State beat them. They're not good.
Yeah. They lost to Boston College in the tournament, like you said.
If a guy banks a 3-pointer from straight away, like top of the
Again,
key,
because his head is so
should that
large.
count as 2? I mean,
His
should
head
we?
is so large it affects the gravitational pull of the ball. His head is
That was a stone brick that went up there.
His head is so large that if he passes by a body of water, the tide rises.
Yeah. Should you not at least acknowledge that you got fucking lucky also? I mean, he's running back on defense after he makes his shot. Now, usually, I mean, you would at least crack a smile or say, wave it off. Like a tennis ball that hits the net and trickles over when you were trying to hit it into the deep corner. But I think the refs should have the discretion to discount the third point on that. If, off the glass like it was on a pool table and then somehow ends up in the basket. I don't know that should count for 3 points unless it was called beforehand, which we know that it wasn't. All right.
Anyway, so if you're wondering why the NCAA is basically going out of business at this point and being taken over by the SEC Big Ten coalition, you really only have to look at this night, which is that the 2 feature games of the round, the 2 games, the best matchup in Creighton and Tennessee, and the game everybody wants to see between Houston and Duke, which has so many things about. I mean, it's got a racial component. It's got like the privileged guys versus the hardworking guys. There's a lot of elements in that Duke versus Houston games. They're both being played at 10 o'clock on a Friday night.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
who the hell came up with this?
On True
schedule
TV,
for
yes.
Would it really be hard on a holiday weekend to start one of these games at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes, why is
So
there
that
no
the 2
afternoon
good
game?
games are in prime time? Like that. I get why you didn't want to do it on a Thursday night, work week. Blah. It's Good Friday. Like,
No one's working.
half the Christians are taking the day off anyway. Like, it's basically a holiday Friday.
Yeah.
Start the first games at like 4:30 so you get these 2 games in primetime, NCAA. What the hell is wrong with you? Stupid.
They're busy trying to figure out what to do about these prop bets as they're trying to
And
solicit
honestly, we were having that
states
conversation.
to knock that off.
We were having that conversation with Andy yesterday. They probably should do something about these prop bets. Incredibly vulnerable. And look, even if you're taking away the chances for corruption, which are through the roof,
Yeah.
who knows better than athletes how they might do in a particular game between scouting reports and practice and film work? If you're a point guard, you got a pretty good idea if you're going over under 3 assists
Yes.
in the upcoming matchup. If you're a small forward, you know the game plan. You got a pretty good idea if you're going to be over under 12 points in that game. And, again, it doesn't always have to be family. You could just pass it out to your friends.
Sure.
So, yeah, I actually kind of, for once, agree with the NCAA. Not that I ever saw this idiot prop bet parlay thing taking off because, go buy scratchers. It's the stupidest form of betting in the history of stupid forms of betting.
People love it, though. They absolutely love it.
Again, and that's, I think, at the college level, what makes it dangerous.
Yeah. It does seem highly suspicious, some of the activity that you see. And I guess, even in the pros, they're out to this guy, Jonte Porter. 2 very suspicious withdrawals from games with mysterious injuries or
Action on his
whatever.
game. Yeah, Lubie was telling me about that, and boy, is he a moron if he gets himself blackballed. And probably going to cast suspicion on his much more accomplished brother too.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr.
But tonight's games, we got some good matchups, really at both levels. Gonzaga and Purdue is an early one, and then Marquette and NC State, which I think is the first tip off.
It is.
For a 2-11 matchup. It's about as intriguing as you can get, given those 2 seeds. NC State, obviously, they have a matchup problem with the big boy
Burns Jr.
We need a good nickname for him because with Jonathan Ogden Jr. there. Marquette's big is accomplished, but he's tall and skinny and athletic. He is the kind of guy who does not match up well with these physical kind of players who can use their wide shoulders to create separation and just shoot hook shots all over him. And we've talked about with Big Boy, he's really good with his feet on that little spin move to his left and getting to his left hand. So I think he is actually a matchup problem for Marquette. Now, Marquette's guards played really well in the previous 2 rounds, so we'll see how NC State manages to match up with them. But when you have the inside versus outside, kind of advantage inside in that matchup. So I could definitely see NC State going to the wire. On the other hand, if you're just looking at by the numbers, Marquette's probably got too much offense for an NC State team that really is not a high-scoring outfit. They prefer to play like in the high 60s, maybe the low 70s. Marquette, a team that can easily play in the 80s or 90s. So I see the spread, which I think is the biggest of the night at 6.5. But I think NC State is very live in that game. Next one, Gonzaga and Purdue. I don't see how the Zags are going to match up with Edey in this one. And obviously, Gonzaga played really well in the last month of the season, with the exception of that St. Mary's game in the West Coast Conference Championship. But they have what has sort of become the modern college big. Ike, he's about 6'9", maybe 6'10". He's athletic, not real big and bulky. Throw that in against the shaved Yeti, who comes in at 7'4" and 300 pounds. He doesn't have to be able to move, which is a good thing because he can't. And if he can get Ike in foul trouble, that's a big part of what Gonzaga likes to do offensively. So I don't really know how the Zags are going to manage to stick around in this one. I would lean pretty strongly to Purdue there. Houston and Duke, we're talking about it last night with PC and Blake and the boys. To me, that game's all about the officiating, and when a game is going to be on the officials, you always got to like the Duke Blue Devils in that situation because there's some history with them getting a friendly whistle. I think it's really going to come down to the big Polak Filipowski against Houston's bigs who are not actually that big. They're all coming in about 6'7", 6'8". They don't really have a physical matchup for Filipowski. So the question for Houston is are they going to be allowed to bang on him in the low block? Are they going to be able to force him to make his initial catch at like 16 or 17 feet, which Filipowski will do. He's not a guy who's afraid to leave the lane. But if they can force him, outside of the paint, if they can make him catch the ball at 16 or 17 feet and put the ball on the floor to try to get his in the lane, that's going to be a big advantage. Houston, whose guards are, frankly, much more experienced. They're better, and they're just physically tougher. I think you saw that last game with Shed against Texas A&M. They're all sort of built the same. They're not particularly big, more point guard side, 6'2", 6'3". Got that like Tim Hardaway fullback body. They like to get into the paint and cause problems. They're more slashers than shooters. They're all better than the Duke guards. So if this is a guard game, Houston, this is a bigs game, Duke, I could see it going either way, but obviously, if you're a Houston backer here, you got to be afraid of the history of Duke and positive whistles, particularly when you, Houston, have not gotten a friendly whistle the last 2 games in the NCAA tournament. And then we get to what I think is the best bet of the night, Creighton and Tennessee. We've talked about Tennessee all tournament long. I am not a fan of Rick Barnes, nor should anybody be in the NCAA tournament. He's got a long and robust history of choking. And I am not a fan of one-man gangs in NCAA tournament play. And Tennessee offensively is the connect show. If he does not go off, they do not score. Creighton, much more multiple on offense. They can get it from Schindlerman. They can get it from their guards. The other forward's also a good slasher. I think you saw that against Oregon where they really spread the ball out. I think Creighton's a better team, and the line actually went up from 2.5 to 3.5. If they both play their A games, I don't think it's a close game. I think if they both manage to play their A games in this spot, Creighton wins by double digits. And fortunately for the rest of us, I think Creighton's also, because of Cockburn, the best possible matchup for Purdue. He's one of the few guys in the country who's big enough to actually go one-on-one with Edey. So I think Creighton gives us our best chance of advancing and then getting Purdue the hell out of the tournament before we have to watch another round of Zach Edey and horribly painful to watch basketball.
Holy Hubie Brown, man. I mean, excellent dissection there of the 4 games on the slate here tonight. So hopefully that'll enhance everybody's viewing pleasure and maybe betting interest as they watch these.
Yeah,
things.
I think it's a favorite and a dog in each slot. I think NC State would probably be the path to take in that game. Purdue laying the points, then you get to the night game. I think you lay the points with Houston, although that one's a close call to me, and you take the points with Creighton.
All right, sounds good. Professor, a big board. Is that on tap here for this week? Did you get a chance to
Yes,
go
we had a
together?
very interesting case that intersects in all the worlds we talk about, pop culture, politics, sports, and that is the case of one Sean Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever the hell
I was thinking you might want to
called.
reference that at some point during the show.
And a lot of things came to light, and it explains a lot of things that have been going on for like the last 30 years.
Yes.
In the world of entertainment, in the world of sports, in the world at large. And so we bring you in the spirit of being multifaceted, not being just all about college basketball for all of March. The big board of things that now make sense with the new Puff Daddy case in Allegheny.
All right, number 5.
And that starts with number 5, which honestly has been a weird thing for going on 40 years now. And that's literally everything about the Mo Money, Mo Problems video. If you wondered 40 years ago, why is Puff Daddy making Miss dress up like him with first in a sweatsuit that looks like big silky pajamas, and then like Minions 20 years before Minions were actually a thing? And more importantly, in an era of gangster rap where Biggie and Tupac were literally just murdered over rap, where the East Coast, West Coast rap feud was erupting in shootings at the Source Awards, why in that environment is Puff Daddy sampling I'm Coming Out as a musical basis for his big debut rap single? Because honestly, that ain't a gangster rap kind of choice. But now that we know more about Puff Daddy's personal life, I'm Coming Out makes a lot more sense than it did back in the mid-90s when the Mo Money, Mo Problems video first surfaced.
This story has a lot of elements to it here. I'm looking at a 2-page spread here in the New York Post. Drug mules, sex workers.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
We're going to be
Cuba
talking
Gooding
about all of it.
Jr. I mean, everybody's involved in this thing. It's great.
We're going to be talking about all of it. And that we're going to flash forward about 30 years off of this one, off the Mo Money, Mo Problems video, which again, I'm Coming Out makes a lot more sense as a choice now.
2 nice feds, though. Speaking of money, I mean, the feds were involved in. Did they really ransack both of those places, or is that the way people?
Yeah, him his friend plane too. Apparently, they took the plane apart in Opelika yesterday.
Wow.
But yes, again, Why is he making Mace dress up like minions? Why did Mace quit after like 5 hit songs in a row? Why was Mace like, I'm out of here. I'm not dressing like a minion with you.
And
anymore.
he hates P. Diddy. He's
I'm not gonna dress in your uncomfortably close to looking like pajamas sweatsuits anymore.
That's number 5, man. This should be some hit list here today. Number 4.
Number 4, we're gonna flash forward to, and people have forgotten about this, when Puff Daddy's son was playing college football at UCLA, and Puff Daddy was arrested for getting in a fight in the weight room with the UCLA strength and conditioning coach. Which I don't know if how many of you have ever met any strength and conditioning coaches.
Yes,
but they're all
usually
psychopaths.
tough.
This is
Yes.
the last people on earth you want to fight.
Exactly.
You remember that guy who's been Oregon's strength and conditioning coach with the weirdo mustache who looks like an
He's
old-timey
UM's.
barbell lifter?
He's UM's. He's been
Yes.
UM's S&C since Cristobal's been there.
But I'm saying, as weirdo as that guy looks, you don't want to fight that guy.
No.
He literally looks like a carnival strongman from the 1900s. Like
You'd rather visit the Aryans in Oz if you were a black
he looks
rapper.
like a guy who literally just blends up a steak and drinks it in the morning. But for some reason, 8 years ago, Puff Daddy, while his son was not a bad player at UCLA, by the way, pretty solid defensive back and kick returner. Puff Daddy wants to get in a fight with the strength and conditioning coach. Allegedly, at the time, it was Puff Daddy picked up a kettlebell and threatened the strength and conditioning coach and got a negative reaction. I'm just going to say maybe that story was misreported. Maybe it was Puff Daddy picked up a dumbbell and didn't threaten but offered to do something with that dumbbell to the strength and conditioning coach. And since every school is not Penn State, some strength and conditioning coaches aren't looking to play that particular game in the locker room.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hey,
What was that, Lubie? Get the fuck out of here.
I'm saying that's what the guy was saying to P. Diddy. Like, you look and see things that happened. This guy's like, no,
I'm
no.
just saying, because if
I'm
you
here.
remember, Puff Daddy was arrested and then the case was dropped. Again, maybe Puff Daddy wasn't threatening so much as cajoling in this particular situation. Hey, look,
Loom says a mistake.
I've got the 5-pound dumbbell over here. We can play some fun and games with it.
All right, that's number 4. He picks a fight with the strength and conditioning coach, a maniac.
Or maybe because I think these were still around in 2015, maybe Puff Daddy had a shake weight and was,
Oh, no.
think of the things we can do with this.
Here, Big Daddy.
There you go. Might have misinterpreted it, the strength and conditioning guy, as a gesture.
I've got a couple of matching sweatsuits over here. Would you like to come and play?
Oh, no. We can redo the More Money, More Problems video.
That was a serious looking raid, too. I mean, these guys weren't fucking around that showed up on Star Island.
Involves a lot of crazy shit.
And this takes us to number 3,
Yeah.
which answers a question I know Defo is very interested in, which is, what happens to Syracuse's white 3-point specialists after they leave college? And the answer is, apparently some of them become drug mules for P. Diddy. This is Bowden Ball, who played basketball for 2 years at Syracuse before transferring to some Division II school in Virginia I haven't heard of. And they keep leaving that school's name out of the story. But apparently has been P. Diddy's drug and gun mule since leaving college, which, again, I feel like there's a long line. Well, number one, I guess this is what happens when Jim Boeheim decided to keep his job for an extra 15 years. Like all the little white guys who were trying to become coaches just said, fuck it, I'll be P. Diddy's drug mules instead.
He's got McNamara on the bench there.
Boeheim's never going to retire, so I'm just going to, stay as P. Diddy's drug mule. Number 2 brings up the question, what's going to happen to Boeheim's the small kid? That's his son that was a guard. Is he going to be a drug mule for Drake?
Could be.
I don't know. And number 3, honestly, in 2024, how fucking angry is Jerry McNamara? How much is Jerry McNamara sitting there saying, if I had been born in the right year, I could have been in college for 9 years with COVID, collected NIL money, or I could have been fucking P. Diddy's drug mule, which has to pay better than assistant basketball coach. He's like, I'm a goddamn legend. Did you see me in the Big East tournament? I could have made all the money in Syracuse and NIL, but no, I had to be born in an era where you only got to play 4 years in college instead of 9. And P. Diddy's drug mules were guys he knew from Harlem, not white three-point shooters from Syracuse.
There's a particularly unflattering picture of this young man in this two-page spread in the New York Post. Almost looks like the Nick Nolte mugshot.
Almost looks like he's been, I don't know, snorting coke with P. Diddy for 2 consecutive
But he was
weeks.
getting like something really premium. I don't know, where is he getting it from? Like Abu Dhabi? He was getting.
You know what
this
I
pink
like
cocaine.
actually in that story is that they describe
You're in
it as-
Miami, for God's sake. Like you have to
They
upgrade.
describe it as cocaine and other substances. What the
Yes.
hell is so bad that it has to be other substances? Can't you say cocaine and X or cocaine and
Like, what
weed?
is it, fentanyl?
Cocaine. I want to know what the other substances are, because it seems to me, given the rest of the story, it might be cocaine and a case of KY jelly.
Cocaine and chicken fricassee from the song by the same name. All right, that's number 3. Syracuse guard as a drug mule.
That takes us to number 2, and I think we need to set the stage here, because this, to me, has been the single most mysterious thing about Puff Daddy. For, again, this man's been famous a very long time, going on 40 years.
Yes.
And that is, you're a rap producer who, let's say, has some interesting personal tastes in your personal life that are not accepted in the world of rap, particularly gangster rap. What are you going to do to hide those tastes in plain sight?
Oh.
And that is, you make your boyfriend your umbrella slave for a decade. If you have a valet, was the official title, who's just going to follow you around with an umbrella, like you can't hold your umbrella.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy necessary? Why has this guy been following you around for 10 years carrying your umbrella? Well, I think we have a pretty good guess in why. If you want your boyfriend to be allowed to come with you everywhere you go, have him pose as your umbrella slave. And it also explains why the guy spent a decade being a goddamn umbrella slave. Like, you'd think that would get pretty embarrassing. When everybody's like, "Oh, Puff Daddy, you're going to give." Honestly,
even Fredo had more meaningful tasks that he was performing.
Between
Yeah.
the things we've had, where Puff Daddy made the producer, as part of his tryout, hire both a boy and girl prostitute and have sex in front of him. If my choices were that or carrying the umbrella for 10 years, give me the prostitute. Like, I feel like that's much less humiliating than being the umbrella slave for a decade.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson tried to hire him away at one point just to follow him around the Masters in case it was raining. Interesting. Yeah, Puff Daddy's umbrella
We
slave.
still have number 1. And we're going to branch out into the world because Puff Daddy got me thinking about things.
All right.
And obviously we've seen a lot of these conspiracy theories with the QAnon and the eating of children among Hollywood celebrities and political elites and the adrenochrome. And it got me thinking about these rappers from this generation who became some of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry. I mean, not just as rappers, but as actors and movie producers and everything else, and how that all went down in the halls of power and behind the scenes. And I think Puff Daddy provides a clue to maybe the biggest mystery of the last 30 years in the rap and entertainment and Hollywood worlds. And that is, what happened to the Funky Bunch? Did Marky Mark sex traffic the Funky Bunch? Is that what happened to the Funky Bunch? Because I don't know about you, but looking at this picture, that looks like a man who's getting ready to sex traffic the Funky Bunch.
That really does,
And the Funky Bunch looks like they're about to get sex trafficked. I'm just saying, if we've got this evidence on Puff Daddy, maybe we need to look at what happened more closely with Marky Mark.
Have the feds
Because how
spoken to
did
you
Marky Mark
about any of
become
this?
How did Marky Mark become the most famous man in Hollywood? How did
Yeah,
Marky
it's amazing. Yeah.
go from this doofus rapper with the worst songs in the history of songs to becoming the biggest power broker? Ballers, Entourage. We're talking about the man who produced the 2 worst shows in the history of HBO, both Entourage and Ballers, and made millions doing it. And maybe that's because Marky Mark has the dirt, because he knows who the Funky Bunch got sex trafficked. Because the only other option is that Marky Mark just completely abandoned the Funky Bunch on his ruthless climb to the top. And I don't think we want to admit that Marky Mark just let the Funky Bunch be cast aside. No, I think Marky Mark has
Cast
the dirt
aside.
on who drank the adrenochrome from the Funky Bunch.
Have the feds asked you to weigh in on
They have
any
not,
part of this
but
investigation?
I am plenty glad to help them investigate this allegation.
I thought I saw you with an HSI jacket outside the Star Island mansion.
I am plenty happy to spend my days delving deep into the mystery of what happened to the Funky Bunch.
All
Again,
outstanding
look
stuff.
at this
Yeah.
picture. Look at how they're dressed. Look at the fact that they're posing in front of an RV. Tell me that's not a group that's about to get sex trafficked.
Yeah,
to
no,
Mexico.
it reeks of
Come
criminal
right
behavior.
across the border and feed them to Harvey Weinstein.
I think the feds need to consult you on this thing. You would get right to the bottom of it quickly. You wouldn't have had to ransack these two homes.
We're coming to help you, Funky Bunch.
Yeah. All right, Professor. Excellent job as always.
You guys have a great one. Good luck to everybody tonight. Go Creighton. Blue Jays heavy tonight.
Okay. Yeah, we're rooting. I guess we're going to have to root for another Marlins loss tonight, Lubie. As supposedly the attendance was 32,000 yesterday at that game. That was Jim Sarney.
It looked like a good crowd. It just the Marlins let them down as they've been doing for a long time.
An indicator, and what's funny is the Yankees, who have everybody, right? I mean, or can go out and buy everybody. You should see the excitement, the storm that has been created here of enthusiasm for the Yankees since they acquired John Birdie, whose name was never mentioned.
Yeah, no. I
once in a headline here in South Florida. Not once.
It was fine for the Marlins, but it wasn't a guy you talked about. Who gives a shit about
it? Louis Arise 0 for 6 yesterday. That has to reverse, right? The guy was flirting with 400 for half the season. Holy George Brent. What were we talking about? 0 for 6, Louis Arise. Is he detached? Is he Jimmy Butler? What's going on with that?
He was bad. He was really bad. He was hitting balls solidly. He was really bad.
This guy is a second coming of Ron Carew. He's going to have to snap out of it. I mean, at least you want these guys to do well, even if we're rooting for them to lose every ball game. If they could lose every ball game through the first 80, Lubie, we cash our ticket, right? No, they would have to lose like 83 for us to cash our ticket. 83. Yeah. So, I mean, they're well on their way, man. And we have Pittsburgh in the over, so we're off to a rockin' roaring start in the baseball season. Juan Soto throws a guy out at the plate. Yankee fans are euphoric as they come back from the dead and a 4-0 deficit against Houston. More baseball on tap today. College basketball, NCAA tournament continues for Jim Sarney. Yes, there is a women's NIT round of games tonight. Is that tonight? No.
I think the women's tournament's back tonight. It's Friday.
Yeah, you don't have you have to wait on the women's NIT. Get out of here, Lubie. What am I gonna do for entertainment today?
I don't know. I think it's gonna be okay though. He'll watch the women's tournament.
Florida Derby. Here's an omen, Lubie. Do you believe in omens? Who were we with yesterday when we did the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show? Who was the proprietor there at the Ocean Manor Hotel?
Rico, the one and only.
And who's done more with less? I mean, you talk about Calipari in reverse. Who's done less with more? Who's done more with less than Frank Tallarico, who turned this place that was about to be condemned into one of the hot destinations here in South Florida? Has 2 terrific restaurants operating on the same site. Very, very different. I mean, it's not like he's copied the formula there. He's making a few pizzas downstairs. Completely separate vibe, atmosphere, menu, everything. Both well run. Did you see anybody screaming and complaining? Was anybody looking around for service there at the Tiki Bar? They were packed.
Jammed, and everyone was happy. It was something rare in South Florida.
Unbelievable, right? Nice. I mean, the cheerful vibe there all the time. Every time you go there, people are having a good time. They're eating some good food. So one of the horses in the field, I didn't realize this, in the Florida Derby is a horse called Frankie's Empire.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit.
Were we not in the presence of the great Frank Tallarico, who's created what you would have to say is Frankie's Empire? Hell, he's got a hotel in Melbourne now. He's got a place in Nassau.
The second best hotel, and I get it, small hotel, but there's a lot of small hotels in America. A lot of
hotels in Melbourne, yeah.
The Bimini spot's doing really well. We know what's going on at the Ocean Manor Resort. Piazza Italia was thriving.
Was crushing it, yeah. Everything this guy touches does well.
The developer's an asshole. That's actually very apt.
So did the gods of gambling direct us there yesterday to spend time with Frank Tallarico to alert us to the fact that Frankie's Empire might be a live play in the Florida Derby? What
Oh,
do you
that's
think?
move. You got to put something on it. How do you not at least put a little? It's like, I mean,
Take a little taste on that, right?
like
Because
Meshuggah.
what is that horse? Fierceness, the one that bombed out in the Fountain of Youth, finished. I probably needed a race. I mean, you could make that excuse and think that the horse is going to bounce back, but was the 2-year-old champion. This Hades, Joe Orsino special. Joey Esposito, of course, was all over this horse when he won the Fountain of Youth Stakes, so we'll see. Good field going postward, Florida Derby, and there are others. Field of 11. That's part of the fanfare tomorrow out at Gulfstream Park, so that'll be fun. We're going to be there today, get a little preview, and get a free racing form.
Yes.
Just it's Florida Derby Hat Day, I believe, today, Lubie. Do we
Today
impose
or
on Mayo to grab us a couple of hats?
Oh, I mean, if you can, sure. My wife would definitely take a hat.
That would be nice, right? I have a Florida Derby hat. I mean, I have Saratoga hats. I've got Haskell Invitational hats. Do I have a Florida Derby hat? No. Kentucky Derby hats. Unbelievable. We need one, right? That would be great.
I'm in.
So, Mayo, if you're watching, please. Who better to ask? How about when he was snoring for a hotel room? Well, my girlfriend and I would really like to go up the coast there, and we're interested in watching the next space launch. Any room at the hotel?
He's like, we'll go on a Sunday. It's like, Jesus, he's reaching. He wants to go bad. I'm like, fuck.
Frankie throws back at him like, how about half price? And did you see? He sort of made a face, and then he acknowledged it like, well, yeah, that would be okay.
Well, it's like a suite. Like, so half price would probably be friggin' ridiculous. I didn't realize he would do that much. I was like, Frankie, you're nice.
You know he was thinking gratis. You know he was thinking comp.
Maybe, but from Frankie's end, that was a great. I was like half. I'm like, okay, like that's a lot.
All right, Andy, come on down to the track, man. Andy says he's free today. Maybe I'll come down to the track. That'll be great to see Andy out there punching away. And yeah, he had a great comment that it was possible that Otani's interpreter would show up in one of those P. Diddy raids. Imagine he's in there helping to manage his bank account and pay off the cocaine dealer. So, all right, we got to get out of here. Thanks. A lot of fun being with you. Thank you to the professor. That was a great job with the professor. You talk about a bailout when a guy's under the weather, man. All you have to do is turn it over to the professor. He's absolutely brilliant with that stuff.
And was like, oh, I have nothing going on. I can fill in for Defo today. I'm like, I laughed. I was like, you can come. You're always invited, but I'm sure Defo will be fine. I'm like, this is the one.
I got to run down there and get my racing form. That actually served me very well last week because I bailed out of there. And then it's interesting. I do this move all the time. I pull up to valet parking at the Pomp where I usually go on Saturday. Yeah, the Mustang's using their free play, and I'm out there in the race book. And they do a really nice job there. I mean, is it everything that you would want? Maybe not, but it's a very relaxing atmosphere for me. Carol, the bartender there, takes care of everybody. Great. You're not like, hey, yo, can I get a drink here? None of that stuff is going on. The people are very friendly. Somebody wins, they buy a round of drinks for the bar. It's a good crew. It works out really, really well. But routinely, when I valet park my car, I leave the Saturday racing form, which is, I don't know when they're going to stop publishing this gigantic racing form. Because when you had a little booklet, I would just shovel it right there between the seat and the console. And it was one of those things like, remember, I see you weren't around when people used to carry like a baseball glove in their back pocket just in case a game broke out somewhere and they could be in it. You should be able to like shovel it in a pocket somewhere, the racing form. But instead, they got this giant thing. You've seen it. It's almost like you got the actual copy of the 10 Commandments on the granite. So I put it in the back seat. And then a Mustang gets out, and I usually wait for the valet attendant, and I routinely forget my racing form. And I realize as I walk in there, oh, fuck, I left the racing form in the car. Now I got to give the guy $5 to go get the racing form. And he brings the car up, you get one thing out. And, what are you going to do? Stiff him? Say, yeah, just put it back where it was. I mean, he still ran, and he did the same thing that he would normally do. So now my free racing form has cost me $5, but it was a brief consultation. And it's not like I'm in there, poring over it with an electron microscope to find some hidden fact about a trainer not using blinkers or whatever. And I at a quick glance, I ended up coming up with a horse that I thought was going to be a very solid wager. And then glanced at the next race, and the next thing you know, I'm up $500. So It was beautiful. And if I didn't have the form, I wouldn't have bet the first horse in the first end of that double. So thank you, Mike Mayo, for that. And therefore, I'm going to do the walk of life and see if I can't beat this thing out of me. It's not as bad. I'm more worried about you guys than I am about myself. Should I wear a mask? Because, Mayo's a bit of a hypochondriac.
I don't know. You usually sit on the side. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I lay low on this thing, man. I'm snacking on my. I still have the remnants of the salad that I ate with my fingers on my shirt that I wore there last week. I was going to put it on again today for the show, and then I realized, oh my god, they still have the stains there. And I washed it. That's
Oh, that's not good.
yeah. You got to rub a little extra schmutz on there. When you have those kind of things. All right, we got to get out of here. My laundry lesson will be featured on Monday's show. See if I can get the stains out
Good
of the
luck
fucking
with the
chair.
tournaments and good luck with the Derby tomorrow.
Good luck with everybody. Frankie's Empire. That's our secret,
Got to put something on that. Yep.
like weird occult signs from the gods of gambling tip horse for the Florida Derby. Probably finish last. All right, we'll see you next time as we leave now that.
The time.
It's 9:12.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.